remember the morning light used to fall softly through the kitchen window. It used to touch the walls of this house like a blessing. This house where I raised my son with my own hands. Where I cooked meals with love even when there was barely anything in the cupboard. Where I stayed awake on winter nights, sewing clothes by lamplight so Adil could go to school looking decent. My name is Shamim Begum. And this is my story. People say a mother's love knows no limits. I believed that. I still do. But what they don't tell you is that love, when taken for granted, begins to feel like a weight you carry alone in the dark. My husband passed away when Adil was only 12. Heart attack. Sudden. One moment he was there, laughing at the dinner table. The next moment gone. Just like that. Life doesn't ask permission before it shatters you. After that, it was just the two of us. Me and my boy. I worked as a seamstress. My fingers bled sometimes from the needle, but I never complained. I took extra orders, stayed up late, woke up early. I wanted Adil to have what I never had: education, dignity, a future. I wanted him to walk with his head held high. And he did. He grew up to be a kind gentleman. He got a good job. He made me proud. And when he told me he wanted to marry, I felt my heart swell with joy. I thought, finally, our little home will be filled with laughter again. Finally, I'll have a daughter. Her name was Hira. She was beautiful, confident, modern. She smiled at me during the wedding, and I thought I saw warmth in her eyes. I thought I saw a future where we would sit together, cook together, talk like mothers and daughters do. But I was wrong. The first few months were fine. Or maybe I just didn't notice. Maybe I was too happy to see. Hira would smile at me in front of Adil, but the moment he left for work, the smile would disappear. Her tone would change. Her eyes would turn cold. Small things at first. "Amy, why do you still cook in that old style? No one eats like that anymore. Amy, don't wear that dupatta in front of my friends. It looks so outdated. Amy, can you not sit in the living room when guests come? It's better if you rest in your room." I would smile. Nod. Go to my room. I told myself she's young. She's adjusting. Give her time. Give her love. She'll understand. But time didn't change anything. It only made things worse. Hira began to take over the house. She rearranged the furniture. She threw away my old curtains, the ones I had stitched myself. She changed the kitchen, the shelves, even the way we prayed. She made it clear, without ever saying it directly, that this house was no longer mine. It was hers. And Adil, my son, my boy, he said nothing. I would look at him sometimes, searching his face for the child I raised. The one who used to hold my hand and say, "Amy, when I grow up, I'll take care of you forever." But that boy was gone. In his place was a man who looked away when his wife mocked me. A man who stayed silent when I was told to eat alone in the kitchen. A man who chose peace over principle. I started spending more time in my room. I would sit by the window, watching the street below, remembering the days when this house felt like home. I would cry sometimes, quietly, so no one would hear. But I never stopped praying for them. I prayed that Hira's heart would soften. That Adil would find his voice. That love would return to this house. Because that's what mothers do. We forgive before we're even asked. We hope when there's no reason to. We love even when it's not returned. But hope, I learned, can only carry you so far. One evening, I was sitting in the courtyard, peeling vegetables for dinner. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I used to love this time of day. It felt peaceful. Sacred. Hira came out, her phone in her hand, her face tight with irritation. "Amy, why are you sitting here? I told you I'm having friends over tonight." I looked up at her, confused. "I'm just preparing dinner, Beatty. I'll be done soon." "That's not the point." Her voice was sharp. "I don't want you sitting here when they arrive. It looks... I don't know, it just doesn't look good." I felt something crack inside me. Not anger. Not even sadness. Just exhaustion. "Where should I go, Hira?" She sighed as if I was asking something unreasonable. Just stay in your room, please. Is that so hard? I stood up slowly, my knees aching. I gathered the vegetables in my lap and walked inside. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? That night, I heard laughter from the living room. Music. The clinking of glasses. I sat alone in my room, eating plain roti with yogurt, listening to the sounds of a life I was no longer part of. And I realized something. I had become invisible in my own home. Days blurred into each other. I stopped trying to join them for meals. I stopped trying to make conversation. I moved through the house like a ghost, present but unseen. Hira's words became sharper. Amy, why do you shuffle your feet when you walk? It's so annoying. Amy, can you not hum while you pray? It's distracting. Amy, honestly, do you have to be so old-fashioned about everything? I would smile. Apologize. Retreat. But inside, something was breaking. Adil noticed, I think. Sometimes I'd catch him looking at me with guilt in his eyes. But he never said anything. He never stood up for me. He was too afraid of upsetting Hira, too comfortable in his silence. And I was too tired to fight. One afternoon, I was folding clothes in the courtyard when I overheard them talking in the bedroom. The window was open. Their voices carried. She's always around, Adil. Always hovering. I feel suffocated. She's my mother, Hira. Where else would she be? I'm not saying throw her out. I'm just saying, maybe she could stay with your aunt for a while? Or we could find her a small place nearby. There was a pause. A long, terrible pause. Let me think about it, Adil said. Let me think about it. Not, no, she's my mother and this is her home. Not, how can you even suggest that? Just, let me think about it. I stood there, frozen, the clothes slipping from my hands. I felt my chest tighten, my breathing shallow. I thought I might collapse. But I didn't. I walked back inside, slowly, quietly, and sat on my bed. I stared at the wall for a long time, my mind blank, my heart hollow. That night I didn't cry. I was beyond tears. I just sat there in the dark, wondering how I had become a burden to the son I gave everything for. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I remember because it was the day I used to visit the neighborhood mosque for a weekly gathering. It was the one thing I still looked forward to, sitting with other women, reciting prayers, sharing tea. But that morning, Hira stopped me at the door. Where are you going? To the mosque, Beatty. It's Tuesday. She crossed her arms, her expression cold. I need you to stay home today. I have some guests coming and I need help in the kitchen. But Hira, I go every week. I've already told the others I'll be there. Well, now you're telling them you won't. Her voice was flat, final. Family comes first, Amy. Isn't that what you always say? I felt the words lodge in my throat. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that I had plans, that I mattered too. But I didn't. I just nodded and took off my dupatta. I spent the afternoon chopping vegetables, washing dishes, serving tea to women who barely looked at me. Hira laughed and chatted with them, playing the perfect hostess, while I worked in silence in the kitchen. When they left, she didn't even thank me. She just told me to clean up and went to her room. I stood there, alone in the kitchen, staring at the dirty dishes, and something inside me finally broke. Not with a scream. Not with tears. With silence. A deep, heavy silence that felt like the end of something. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every word, every look of disdain. I thought about my husband. I thought about the promises we made to each other. I thought about the life I had imagined for myself. And I realized I had lost myself somewhere along the way. I had become so small, so quiet, so apologetic for simply existing. And I couldn't do it anymore. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calm. I went through my usual routine, made tea, said my prayers, sat by the window. But something had shifted. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was awake. And I knew, deep in my bones, that things couldn't continue like this. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I knew I couldn't keep living as a shadow in my own home. I deserved more than this. And whether they saw it or not, I was still Shamim Begum. I was still here. Hira's behavior continued to spiral. She no longer bothered to hide her contempt. She spoke to me as if I were a servant. She rolled her eyes when I spoke. She sighed loudly when I entered a room. And Adil, he pretended not to notice. One evening, I asked him if we could talk. Just the two of us. Mother and son. He looked uncomfortable but agreed. We sat in the courtyard, the evening air cool against our skin. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. Adil, I said softly, do you remember when you were little? When your father passed away? He nodded, his eyes downcast. You used to hold my hand every night. You used to say, Amy, don't worry. I'll take care of you. His jaw tightened. Do you still mean that? He didn't answer right away. He looked away, his fingers fidgeting. Of course I do, Amy. Then why does it feel like I'm losing you? His eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw pain there. Real pain. I'm not. I'm trying, Amy. She's adjusting. She needs time. And what about me, Adil? Do I not need anything? He didn't answer. He just stood up, mumbled something about work, and walked away. I sat there alone, the weight of his silence crushing me. The final humiliation came a week later. It was a Friday afternoon. Some neighbors had gathered at our house for tea. Hira was hosting, as usual, playing the gracious daughter-in-law. I stayed in the background, serving tea, refilling plates, smiling politely. But then one of the women, Mrs. Nasim, turned to me and said, Shamim Begum, you've raised such a wonderful son. You must be so proud. I smiled, my heart warming at the acknowledgement. Yes, alhamdulillah. He's a good boy. Before I could say more, Hira cut in, her voice loud and bright. Oh, Amy is very proud. Though honestly, she doesn't really do much these days. She's getting old, you know. Mostly just rests in her room. The room went quiet. I felt my face flush with shame. Mrs. Nasim looked uncomfortable. The other women exchanged glances. Hira laughed, as if she had said something light and funny. I mean, it's natural, right? At a certain age, people slow down. It's good she can rest now. We take care of everything. I stood there, frozen, the teapot trembling in my hands. And then, in a voice so cold it didn't sound like my own, I said, Excuse me. I walked to my room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of my bed. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight. I couldn't breathe properly. And then, finally, the tears came. Not quiet tears. Not dignified tears. Ugly, broken sobs that came from somewhere deep inside me. I cried for the life I had lost. For the son who had forgotten me. For the dignity that had been stripped away piece by piece. And when the tears finally stopped, I felt something new. Not sadness. Clarity. I couldn't stay here anymore. That night, I packed a small bag. Just a few clothes, my prayer beads, a photo of my husband. I didn't leave a note. I didn't make a scene. I just waited until everyone was asleep, and I walked out the door. The night air was cool. The street was empty. I walked slowly, my bag light in my hand, my heart lighter still. I didn't know where I was going. But I knew I couldn't stay. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to freedom. I went to the home of my old friend, Nazreen. We had known each other since we were girls. She opened the door in her nightgown, shocked to see me standing there at such an hour. Shamim? What happened? Are you okay? I smiled, though my eyes were wet. Can I stay here for a few days? She didn't ask questions. She just pulled me inside, made me tea, and held my hand while I cried. The next morning, Adil called. I didn't answer. He called again. And again. Nazreen finally picked up. She's fine, Adil. She just needs some space. Space? From what? What happened? Nazreen looked at me and I shook my head. Just give her time, Nazreen said and hung up. For the first few days, I did nothing. I slept. I prayed. I sat in Nazreen's small garden and watched the birds. I felt empty. But not in a bad way. Like a vessel that had been poured out and was finally resting. Nazreen didn't push me to talk. She just let me be. But one evening over tea, she said, "You know you can't hide forever." "I'm not hiding." "Then what are you doing?" I didn't have an answer. She leaned forward, her eyes kind but firm. "Shamim, you've spent your whole life taking care of others. When are you going to take care of yourself?" I don't even know what that means anymore. It means stop letting people treat you like you don't matter. I looked down at my hands, worn and wrinkled. I don't know how to fight, Nazreen. I'm just tired. Then don't fight. Just stand. Her words stayed with me. A few days later, I received a call from someone unexpected. Mr. Rahim. My late husband's lawyer. I hadn't spoken to him in years. I had almost forgotten he existed. "Begum Sahiba, I heard you're staying with Nazreen. Is everything all right?" I hesitated. "Yes." "Why do you ask?" "I've been trying to reach you. There's some paperwork related to your late husband's estate that we need to discuss. It's been pending for years." "Paperwork?" "Yes. Regarding the house and property. It's important. Can you come to my office?" I felt a strange flutter in my chest. "Yes. I'll come." The next day, I sat across from Mr. Rahim in his small, cluttered office. He was older now, his hair white, his glasses thick. He pulled out a file, dusty and yellowed with age. "Your husband made a will before he passed. Did you know that?" I shook my head. "He was very clear about his wishes. He wanted to make sure you were taken care of." He slid a document across the desk. I stared at it, my heart pounding. "What is this?" "It's the deed to your house. And the small plot of land your husband owned. Everything is in your name, Begum Sahiba. It always has been." The room spun. "In my name?" "Yes. Your husband registered everything under your name shortly before he passed. He wanted to make sure no one could take it from you." I felt tears prick my eyes. My husband. Even in death, he had protected me. Why didn't anyone tell me? You never asked. And frankly, most families don't bother with these things until there's a dispute. I sat there, staring at the paper, my mind racing. The house. The house I had been made to feel like a guest in. The house I had been humiliated in. It was mine. All along it had been mine. I left Mr. Rahim's office in a daze. I walked through the streets, clutching the document to my chest, my heart pounding. I thought about a deal. About Hira. About the way they had treated me. And I felt something stir inside me. Not anger. Not revenge. Just strength. A quiet, steady strength. I went back to Nazreen's house and sat with her in the garden. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I looked at the document in my hands. "I don't know yet. But I'm not going to hide anymore." A few days later, I asked Mr. Rahim to send a message to Adil and Hira. A formal message. Requesting their presence at the house for a legal matter. I didn't tell them what it was about. I just told them to be there. The day came. I stood outside the house, my house, and took a deep breath. I hadn't been back since I left. It looked the same. But it felt different. Or maybe I was different. I walked inside. Adil and Hira were waiting in the living room. They looked confused. Worried. "Ami," Adil stood up, relief flooding his face. "Where have you been? Why didn't you answer my calls?" I didn't answer. I just looked at him. Hira stood too, her arms crossed, her expression guarded. "What's this about? Why did a lawyer contact us?" Mr. Rahim entered behind me, carrying his briefcase. Please sit down, he said calmly. They sat. I remained standing. Mr. Rahim opened his briefcase and pulled out the will. I'm here to clarify a legal matter regarding this property. Hira frowned. What property? This house. And the land registered under the late Mr. Iqbal's name. Adil looked confused. What about it? Mr. Rahim looked at me and I nodded. He continued. Your father left a will, Adil. In it, he clearly stated that all property, including this house, is to remain in your mother's name. She is the sole legal owner. Silence. Hira's face went pale. Adil stared at the lawyer, then at me. What do you mean? I mean, Mr. Rahim said calmly, that this house belongs to your mother. Not to you. Not to your wife. To her. The air in the room changed. Hira's mouth opened, but no words came out. Adil looked like he had been struck. I stood there, my hands folded, my heart steady, and for the first time in years I felt like myself again. Hira was the first to speak. Her voice was shrill, panicked. That's not possible. This house is Adil's. His father left it to him. No, Mr. Rahim said firmly. His father left it to his wife. There's no ambiguity in the will. Hira turned to me, her eyes wide. Amy, this is a misunderstanding, right? You're not going to? I looked at her. Really looked at her. I'm not going to what, Hira? Throw you out? Humiliate you? Make you feel like you don't belong? She flinched. I'm not you. Tears welled up in her eyes. But I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt tired. Adil finally found his voice. Amy, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us? Because I didn't know, Adil. I found out only days ago. But this is your home. You would never. Never what? I interrupted, my voice steady. Never ask for respect? Never expect to be treated with dignity? Never expect my own son to stand up for me? He looked down, shame written all over his face. I took a breath. I didn't come here to punish you. I came here to remind you of something you've forgotten. What? His voice was barely a whisper. That I'm still your mother. And this is still my home. The silence that followed was heavy. Hira sat down, her face in her hands, sobbing quietly. Adil stood frozen, unable to look at me. Mr. Rahim cleared his throat. I'll leave the documents here. You can review them at your leisure. Begum Sahiba, if you need anything, you know how to reach me. He left quietly. I stood there, looking at the two people I had loved and served and sacrificed for. And I felt nothing. No anger. No bitterness. Just a deep, aching sadness. Amy, please. Hira's voice was broken. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean. I didn't realize. You didn't realize what, Hira? That I'm a human being? That I have feelings? She sobbed harder. I turned to Adil. And you? You watched. You said nothing. You let her treat me like I was nothing. His eyes were wet. I'm sorry, Amy. I'm so sorry. I was weak. I should have. Yes. You should have. I walked to the window, looking out at the street, the same view I had stared at so many times, feeling invisible. I spent my whole life making sure you had everything. I gave up my dreams, my comfort, my own happiness. And I never asked for anything in return. I just wanted love. I just wanted to be seen. You are, Amy. I see you. No, Adil. You don't. You see your guilt. You see your fear. But you don't see me. He broke down then, fully, his shoulders shaking. And I felt a crack in the wall I had built around my heart. I stayed for a while longer. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed them to understand. I told them about the nights I cried alone, The meals I ate in silence. The dreams I buried so they could live theirs. I told them how it felt to be invisible. To be a burden. To be unwanted in the home I built with my own hands. Hira cried. Adil cried. But I didn't cry. I had no tears left. When I was done, I picked up my bag. Where are you going? Adil asked, panic in his voice. I don't know yet. But I'm not staying here. Ami, please. This is your house. Stay. We'll leave. We'll. I don't want you to leave, Adil. I just don't want to be here right now. Then when will you come back? I looked at him, and for the first time I didn't have an answer. I don't know. I returned to Nazreen's house that night. She made me tea and we sat in silence. How do you feel? She asked. I don't know. Empty, maybe. But not in a bad way. She nodded. You did the right thing. Did I? You told the truth. That's always the right thing. I looked down at my cup, watching the steam rise. I don't want revenge, Nazreen. I just want peace. Then find it. And don't let anyone take it from you again. Over the next few weeks, Adil came to see me. Many times. He brought flowers. He brought apologies. He brought tears. Hira came too. She wrote me letters. Long, tearful letters asking for forgiveness. I read them. But I didn't respond. Not because I didn't forgive them, but because I needed to forgive myself first. For staying too long. For accepting too little. For believing that love meant suffering in silence. One day, I went back to see Mr. Rahim. I want to make some changes, I said. What kind of changes? I want to divide the property. Half for Adil. Half for me. He raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Yes. And the house? I thought about it for a long time. The house stays mine. He nodded. Very well. I called Adil and told him about the decision. He was silent for a long time. Ami, you don't have to do that. I know. But I want to. Why? Because you're still my son. And I still love you. His voice broke. I don't deserve it. No. You don't. But I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. So I can move forward without bitterness. I found a small house on the other side of town. It was quiet. Simple. Just enough for me. I moved in with Nazreen's help. We painted the walls. Hung curtains. Planted flowers in the garden. It felt like starting over. And it felt good. Adil and Hira visit me now. Not every day. But often enough. They're different. Gentler. More aware. Hira helps me with groceries. She asks before she speaks. She listens. Adil sits with me in the garden. We talk. Not about the past. But about the future. It's not perfect. But it's honest. And that's enough. Some mornings I sit by my window with a cup of tea, watching the sun rise. I think about my husband. About the love he showed me even after death. I think about my son. About the lessons he's finally learning. And I think about myself. About the woman I was and the woman I've become. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not broken. I'm just free. Free to live on my own terms. Free to set boundaries. Free to love without losing myself. And that, I've learned, is the greatest gift I could ever give myself. People ask me sometimes if I regret leaving. I tell them no. Because leaving wasn't giving up. It was waking up. Waking up to my own worth. My own voice. My own power. And once you wake up, you can never go back to sleep. I still pray for my son. For his wife. For their happiness. But I also pray for myself now. For my peace. My strength. My joy. Because I've learned that you can't pour from an empty cup. And I've learned that being a mother doesn't mean disappearing. It means standing tall, even when it's hard, even when you're alone. It means knowing that love should never cost you your dignity. And it means teaching your children, not through words but through action, what respect really looks like. My name is Shamim Begum. And this is my story. A story of silence, of pain, of awakening. A story that didn't end with bitterness, but with grace. Because in the end, the greatest strength isn't in holding on. It's in knowing when to let go. And in letting go, I found myself again.